Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Artificial DM. Today you are joining me in the first episode of my podcast, The Scrying Orb. And I have no script, I have no plans for this, aside from, in the long run, I know that eventually I want to bring some people on. I have some activities that you as a community, I want to be able to bring in and do some things on the podcast. For example, I want you to be able to ask me questions or interact in a way, such as playing some form of a game or whatnot. But for right now, as is, this is just me being me. It's been a little while since I've been making content, and so I'm really out of practice for one. For two, I honestly don't know what to do. I have a few different ideas of things that I want to do for content, but I kind of hit a stumbling block of myself. I ended up not enjoying making the content that I was making, and just because of that, it felt more like a chore and a struggle. And now I've been putting off making more content for months. I've been wanting to do it since summer, and summer has come, summer has gone, and here we are nearing October, and I realized, staring at myself in the mirror, putting off that I want to make more content, and I ended up stumbling across this online. Remember how long you have been putting off these things, and how often you have received an opportunity from the gods, and yet do not use it. From Marcus Aurelius. And it made me kick myself. I was just like, damn, I keep squandering away my time by sitting around, watching content, listening to content, playing video games, just not actively being productive with my time, not chasing my dreams. And I said, I may not be able to sit here and make the Reddit content because I don't enjoy it anymore. And if I'm dumping so much time into making these stories and I'm not enjoying it, what's the point of doing it? So for right now, just to get back into the swing of making videos, I wanted to try out doing a podcast. We might try it for a month, we might try it for a couple months, but I want to see how it goes. If you guys enjoy me rambling to the microphone and talking about different things, then sure, it'd be great to continue doing it. And I even have a couple of people lined up that I'm going to be having on, and I'll be able to do interviews with them, talk about the content they're making. And I've got some other videos planned and lined up to do, but for right now, I'm sticking with doing podcast, at least through the end of the year. And in addition to that, I'm planning on doing some short form content, so be prepared to see some more cringe shorts and TikToks and that shit. Just kind of coming along your dashboard and be like, oh gosh, Artificial is making more cringe! And we'll see how it goes. That kind of sums up how I've been avoiding content creation. But anyway, that's basically my little tangent about Scrying Orb and what I'm going to be doing with it. Although I didn't really say everything. Just, I want more of an opportunity to just talk and be me without having to fit a narrative of, well, this person's totally an asshole, or this person was in the right for standing up for what they believe and all that crap, because I make bad judgment calls sometimes because I don't overthink about the story. I just read it and just go, damn, that was weird. All right, here's some stuff about this. But maybe I shouldn't be criticizing these stories. Maybe I should just be reading them and enjoying them. I don't know. Let's start off. I want to crack open a Mike's Hard lemonade. It's very wimpy, simple drink, but it's what I had in the fridge, and I said, black cherry. Sounds nice. If you've gotten this far into my rambling to the microphone, go ahead, leave me a little comment, say hi. I'd appreciate it just to see that you're enjoying it. And that's it. That's my only call to action for the video. It's been too long since I've actually made stuff, but I did make in my Discord a little blurb a couple weeks ago being like, hey, we're going to get Gobsmacked up and running. We've just been having a lot of conflict of scheduling, especially being as I'm East Coast and most of the Dice Goblins crew is West Coast. It makes it really hard to make something line up. So I kind of decided I'm going to take charge of my own, narrative, mission, goal, and sit down and just start rambling to the microphone and try not to put on my narrator voice where I'm being smooth and over pronunciating everything, and instead just talk, just be a dude, be a bro. So when I did set that up though, I asked if people had any interesting topics that people wanted to hear about, and between that and a little semi-announcement I made on Discord, that's kind of where we're going to be taking tonight's ramblings about, and I'll be talking a little bit, answering a couple questions, but then get into the Curse of Strahd campaign that I'm currently running. For D&D, I've actually ramped up my D&D time a lot, actually, since I stopped making content. When I was reading these stories and making the videos and stuff, I was playing I was forever DM. I was running a game every week, and then in addition to that, I tried to run a one-shot once or twice a month just to get some change, and I would get different players and different people and be like, hey, you want to play one shot, and encourage my players in my normal campaign to try different characters that they haven't been able to try, either different classes or races or whatever. And that's a really fun way to do it. But as of a couple weeks ago, I'm finally a player in a game, and that's a lot of fun. And then back a few months ago, my wife and I got an apartment, and that's a can of worms for another day, but we're in a new apartment and we're going to be here for a couple years. And so it was like, I want to run another campaign. And she was like, what do you want to run? And I was just like, Curse of Strahd. And she's like, why? I'm like, it's one of the best written campaigns that are out there. And then in addition to that, a lot of people really like it, and I want to see why. And chef's kiss. It is a very fun campaign, and there is so much additional content that is out there, from like Mandy Mod, Dragna Carta, Lunchbox Heroes, No Fun Allowed. There's a Discord. There are so many different Reddit pages. There's even, you can stumble across other DM's notes online, and like they have their own fan and wiki just for their campaign. And so being able to flesh out Curse of Strahd has been really, really fun. And to start out, I should probably just give a little drum roll and introduce every player's character. So Mel, her character is a Furbolg artificer named Jomo Mojo. And to put it into 3 words, that 70s show. He's an artificer, and so he is the alchemist artificer, and he has an easy bake oven to make brownies as his flavor for making potions during his downtime activity. And of course, he also makes special brownies, man. And wears like the leather frill jackets and cringe, oh my gosh. And is a complete pothead making terrible choices. Then, at the time, my buddy made I want to say he was an elf ranger, but the ears of the elf were rounded and scarred. He had an accident. But the story of how he had that accident changes every time that character tells the story. And so the first time he was like, yeah, you know that game that you play with the knife on the table and you're bouncing the knife in between your fingers? Oh, I've got all my fingers and the knife goes chop, chop, chop. Yeah, he took that and said, yeah, and so he's an elf. He's got his ears. And so he was putting his ears down on the table and throwing the knife down. Pop, 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 pop. What did you know it? He was drunk and chopped off parts of his ears. And then the next time he was telling the story, it was like, yeah, he was off hunting and his buddies were like, hey, we see an animal. And both of them shot. And wouldn't you know it, they shot him. It's funny. And the player is very chaotic. Chaotic good. And so he was just doing it for the fun. I honestly don't remember what his name was. And that's because that player ended up dropping out. But we'll get to that eventually. Then there is the human sorcerer. He's a charlatan, and he's all about the Furball family fire whiskey. He was like, how many bottles can I get? And I was like, roll me a D8. He ended up with 5, plus an additional 3 based off of his charlatan background, I believe. So he has some bottles that are normal fire whiskey. It's high alcohol percentage, but it's whiskey. And then, no, I'm sorry, it's not fire whiskey. It is fire mead. And then he has a couple of bottles that are special bottles. You know the original Coca-Cola mixture that actually had cocaine in the Coca-Cola? Yeah, he just put cocaine into his fire mead. And so he's a swindler and he tries to get people hooked on his substances, and he'll give them a free shot of his cocaine infused mead in the hopes of making people addicted to his normal mead, and that he's got continual sales. And then we had the Palpatine inspired Tortle, who is a death cleric. Brother Adawaski is ugly, repulsive, Palpatine-esque, but at the same time has more of he cares about what's presented to him and will actually interact with the world in a positive light. And that was the original party. And we started in Death House. I ended up taking Death House. I used Lunchbox Heroes notifications for it, along with a couple of other suggestions. It was a lot of fun. The main highlights I should mention, every time that the party was entering a new room, Finn Furball, the sorcerer, he would do his cantrip Firebolt. I don't remember it was probably Firebolt, but he would cantrip cast a fire spell every time he entered a new room. And at first, this was bad. Of course, he set the wall on fire and they had to put it out, and then he put something else on fire. They had to put that out. But that's okay. The party, they're investigating, trying to figure out why the children say that there's a monster in the basement and they don't know how to get into the basement. If you haven't played Curse of Strahd, I don't want to spoil everything for it, but they're they're investigating every room, going about, and they find this massive chandelier in the dining room. And they decided they're going to try to steal that. And honestly spent 30 minutes of the session attempting to rip down, burn down, dismantle the chandelier so they can take it home to sell. Brother Adawaski, being the competent explorer, is like, this house gives off evil vibes. And he was able to find some stuff that would help the party. And as the players ended up going up to the second floor of the house, same deal. Finn leading the charge, firebolt into the corridor. Thankfully, it landed in the fireplace at the opposite end of the hall. Cool. Neat. Didn't set ablaze anything and added some light to the room. They ended up scrounging around for some more stuff. Brother Adawaski burned a bunch of books of heretics, and Joe found a couple of cool little skeleton figurines that were on the mantelpiece and decided, hoo-hoo, we're gonna make them dance and take them home and stuff. And then they go up to the third floor, and Finn has been casting this cantrip every single time. Gets to the top of the stairs, and if you've played Death House before, you know, at the top of the stairs on the third floor is a suit of animated armor. And so he attacks, casts his firebolt, and immediately hits the thing in the face, which just charged forward to grapple one of the players, attempting to lob itself over the railing, and completely whiffed on its grapple check, tumbled over the ledge. By the time that it came back up, grabbed onto somebody else to body slam it backwards, just suplexing it over the rail. Jomo Mojo, I'm just going to call him Joe because I'm always going to botch the name, but Joe made a quick reaction and was just like, feather fall on the turtle. And so the armor just attempted to suplex this turtle, grabbed it, leaned backwards, while the armor cascaded on the ground, shattering into pieces. It was fun. Other things that happened throughout Death House: they burned 3 creepy dolls, took the corpses of the children, threw them into a toy box, ignited the toy box on fire, and yeeted it out the window. Reason being, one of the children was attempting to possess one of the players, but, you know, it's still evil. I should mention that almost every single player in the group is some form of neutral. It was just a basket case of misdirection and absurdity. And as the party ended up finding the entrance to the basement and made their way downstairs, that was when their really neutral alignment just kind of shined nicely. Because you see, there are things that the party can interact with throughout the dungeon underneath, and they were just like, no, that wouldn't interest my character. Nope, neither would mine. And they just kept walking by things nonstop. And that right there just sets the precedent for what this campaign became. Just a lot of, neat! And then turning and walking the other direction. Just over and over and over. Whatever. It's fun. It's funny because some of those times, it bites the players in the ass. Other times, it's just, alright, you avoided death. Neato. I don't want to spoil the ending for the dungeon, so I'm just going to say that sometime during the Death House, I think we ran like 3 or 4 sessions for it. The elf player was just really flaky, and he ended up dropping out. But the rest of the players, they defeated the monster in the basement and escaped the murderous house, barely, and burnt it to the ground. Because, of course, they have the dude that has been going around torturing things all the time. Just firebolt, 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 and burning all the little creepy dolls is no fun, is no Blinsky, and incinerating children's corpses that are put into their own toy box. So, of course, they're going to burn the whole mansion to the ground. I will say, Death House in itself was a fun little module, fun little adventure. I don't really think it's needed to play Curse of Strahd. I enjoyed it as a DM. However, all my players were like, we honestly thought it was more of a haunted house. And I'm like, yeah, it was haunted. There are some spooky elements and a couple of undead, but they're like, nah, we want to like ghost or something that would actually be spooky. That's okay. That's just a difference of preference. But as a DM, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it as a one-shot. After the fact, though, and kind of skimming through the Van Richten's guide for Ravenloft, I think I would rather run Van Richten's little house, the Haunted Mansion, in that, because it would give more flavor and set the tone and the mood and atmosphere for Barovia. Because even with Death House, I had to implement some changes to it to reflect Barovia and give some soft nods and preludes to the fact that there are different elements in Barovia that are being shown in the Death House, in particular in this one room. But either way, I think Death House in itself was a fun module. It's not fair. It's very not fair. In fact, had I not changed a couple things, I'm pretty certain that every player would have died. What's the point of having a TPK right at the beginning of the campaign, aside from being like, aha, you're all dead, see, I can totally kill you, ahaha, when you can bust out Strahd and intimidate the players and actually show them a real threat? In the future, I would probably ask my players if they want to do Death House or not, and if they don't, no problem, not gonna do it. Or it would be a fun way to teach new players how to play, because it's contained. Because it's contained, they can't break out of the walls and go, I'm gonna run to this tavern way over here and not talk to anybody. But it still provides the players with an environment that they get to play with and manipulate and think of different ways to win without the answer always being directly in front of you. I'll tell you guys more about the Curse of Strahd game as these podcasts go on. For right now, I want to get into a couple questions that people have asked on the Discord, and I will say, if you have any questions for me, whether it's about D&D, whether it's advice, whether it's just life, anything, hit me up in the comments or send me an email. I want to be more interactive with my community. If you have questions for me or have different things you want me to look at and talk about on the podcast, then you can either post a comment here or hop on the Discord, send me an email, whatever you want to do. You can snail mail it if you really want to. Just address it to your mother's house and I'll be able to get it. Mr. Hypocritical asked, what is your least favorite anime? And why is it not X-Arm? This is a two kind of parter question because he also asked that I do watch X-Arm. I'm going to. Don't worry. I will eventually. I just don't have the time right at this moment to watch it. But I promised him I will at least watch the first episode. Now, as for my least favorite anime, I'm no weeb. The last time I watched any anime, I tried watching some JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and while I say I'm not a weeb, I'm also a weeb because I prefer subbed overdubbed, and so I have to actively watch the screen, and I'm stupid and I can't work on doing anything else. So because of that, it takes a lot of my focus to actively watch anime, and so I just don't do it. But as for least favorite anime, man, I try to watch Naruto a little bit and I just could not get into it, but that was like 15 years ago, so who knows. I will say that one of my favorite animes was Last Exile. It was something that only got one season, and it was a steampunk, like, plains adventure show. It was really neat. I only watched a couple episodes, but it really just sparked my imagination for steampunk in a way. It was just like, whoa, that could be totally cool. And that was neat, especially as a setting. It reminds me a little bit of Castle in the Sky or like Eberron, but I probably only watched 6 episodes because at the time when I was actively trying to watch anime, I didn't really have good internet, so I had to get it on DVD and watch it that way. And I ended up just deciding, anime is not really my thing. As for manga, I really did enjoy Genshiken. It's a manga about a college club for otaku, and they are like serious shut-ins, and they enjoy just going to the conventions to buy manga and figurines and put together their models and stuff like that. It's just really super nerdy, but I liked it. I like the slice of life nonsense, probably because I'm a social person, but honestly, I couldn't tell you why. I do eventually want to read Berserk. I just haven't set aside the time to do so. Anime, manga, they're both good media. It's just got such a bad connotation of the fan base that makes it easy to go, yeah, I'm really not into that. But I mean, at the same time, RPGs have the same connotation of the greasy, sweaty neckbeard being like, I cast fireball, 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 and sitting around in dark rooms with unwashed men being like, I want to caress her bosom because it makes my bard happy. It's just, I just don't set the time aside to actively enjoy manga or anime in my downtime. Would I? A couple of them, sure, like Berserk, but it's kind of that. Mayu asks, is mayonnaise an arcane focus? Personally, maybe. If you were a bard and ended up getting your hands on the alchemist jug, maybe I would make you roll a performance check every single time you are trying to use mayonnaise from the alchemist jug as your arcane focus. But you know, like a 13 or a 15 DC for performance to use mayonnaise as your arcane focus. Yeah, I would allow it. Maybe if you were some form of warlock where your patron was an ooze or something slimy like that. That's kind of cursed. Archital asked, how did we learn about D&D? I believe this was more of a question for the whole Dice Goblins, but I'm going to go ahead and take this one on and just say I learned about D&D because when I was in scouting, well, let me back up. I was a Boy Scout. I was in it from the time I hit 11 till about 19. When I hit Eagle, I actually stayed on as a troop leader for a little while with some of the other adults. But through Boy Scouts, I ended up making a lot of my friends. I ended up joining the Order of the Arrow. Order of the Arrow is like an honor society within Boy Scouts. And after going to one or two of the Order of the Arrow events, I ended up learning about magic, and magic was a lot of fun. Played tons of magic at multiple scouting events from then on out. And eventually, during one of those scouting weekends, one of my buddies was like, we should play D&D. And I was interested. It was intriguing. We had kind of sort of done somebody's homebrew RPG during a scout summer camp one week, and that was a lot of fun. But I never could actually sit down and focus long enough to learn how to play D&D. And that's okay, because I totally would have been that guy during my time when I first learned about D&D. With that, I've kind of been recording here for almost an hour, just kind of rambling about stuff. But hopefully you have enjoyed my ramblings. I'm planning on doing this at least once a week. And like I said, there will be a few guests joining on the show. I've got to structure out a few things to figure out what all I want to be able to present to you guys for you to enjoy. If you have some ideas, nope, never mind. I already said I was only going to do one call for action. That's it. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, hope you feel inspired.